Welcome to another set of study style sessions for the BJCP training program from the Brewers Anonymous Homebrew Club. To kick off this section of those study study sessions, we're going to address something that is inevitably going to come up along the way. We have about 90 styles of beer that we need to know well enough to evaluate for our judging and tasting exam. With so many beers, we're eventually going to come across some that we not only can't find one of the suggested commercial examples from the guidelines, we're going to face somewhere along the line the situation where we're not going to find any example of that style unless we can homebrew one ourselves. But let's say we're looking to find commercial examples. There's going to be a situation where we're not going to find any. So we need to find a way to counterbalance that lack of experience that we're going to have that style and be as best prepared as we can for our judging and tasting exam. And the first and probably best preparation we can do for that is to know the style to the letter as much as we possibly can. We've got a couple tools to do that. We have got our study flashcards. Still haven't decided on a name for these, but we will have these for every style that we are going to cover in this course. And those are written from the BJCP beer style guidelines, which of course we always have to reference up until the time we take our exam. We won't have them to refer to, but we have them to learn what these styles of beer that we've never tried are or should be, and have that information and that knowledge to do a very well-written evaluation of the beer if we are given one of these beers on our exam. So backtracking a little bit, while we may not find an example that's listed in the guidelines, we might find a commercial example of that beer, or at least a beer that's claiming to be that style. That would probably be the next best thing to finding one that the BJCP guidelines suggest is a classic example. At least we have something that is attempting to be the style. It's most likely, hopefully, a good representation of the style and a good reference point for us to learn and study with. In some cases, it may be a little off, and it gives us some experience on finding how a beer doesn't match exactly the style, which is as important as knowing how it does, especially for our exam and for judging it in general. So that would be the next best thing to actually finding one of the suggested styles in the guidelines. Lastly, something we can also do to get that experience in judging, and in this case, judging a beer out of style, is to judge a beer that is knowingly out of style. We want to be close. We don't want to find, like, for an example, an American lager. Say we can't find an American lager. We don't want to replace it with an Imperial Stout. That is beyond apples to oranges comparison. We want something close. As an example, and we're going to be doing this here shortly in this series, actually, Czech Amber Lager. I cannot find a Czech Amber Lager or something claiming to be a Czech Amber Lager. So for that session, I'm going to be judging a international amber lager. It has a lot of the same characteristics, but there is also quite a bit of difference between the two styles. And that's something that's another skill we're going to have to develop, not only for our exam, which actually is very important for our exam, but also for judging as well, to give the best feedback we can to a beer. So it's a very important exercise. And the biggest thing that I continue to say, and you may be sick of hearing it already up to in category 3, is practice, practice, practice. Even though we can't find the beer, exactly the style of beer that we are studying, practicing judging a beer that is not that style is as important, and maybe some ways more important, because we don't get that opportunity often. Most likely we'll find a majority of the beers, we'll find an example for one way or another. Judging beers that are not to the letter of the entry of the description of the beer we need to know how to do that, because some of the beers on our exam are not going to be the style. So it's an exercise worth doing, and we're going to be exploring a lot of that in this category study alone. Now, you will say right now, category 3 Czech Lager is almost the perfect example of what I am talking about here and how to counterbalance the inexperience we're going to have with the beer. So with that information, let's get started. We're going to go on to category 3 Czech Lagers.